Good Tuesday evening to you all out there. I'm coming from you live from who the fuck knows where. Welcome into another episode. Yeah, well, you know, of the Barking Brow Show. I'm Jacob, Mr. Casey Kinnaman, and Nick Carnes down below. We're brought to you as always by our friends over at SeatGeek. So if you're now less mad at the Browns like the rest of us, and you want to get some tickets and you want to go watch them, use our friends over at SeatGeek. Use our promo code Barking Browns. Get $20 off that purchase. That'd be really cool. Less than 50 subs from that 1K number.
So close.
Looking to get to that 1K number. So if you would hit a sub there on the YouTubes, that would be really that would be really great. Gentlemen, how are we?
I'm still pissed at the Browns, actually. Like I'm mad because we could have been done doing this. This is like it feels good to win. It feels good for a fun football game to take place, but we could have been doing this. They didn't have to do what they were doing. This guy's been there the whole time, So I think you have every right to be mad and ask yourself the question: what the fuck took so long?
I could be mad. Yeah. I could be mad, but I'm not gonna be mad because I'll tell you what. For a while there, I was just being negative on the internet, and I'll tell you what, it was bringing other people down. It was bringing me down. I still don't have a voice. I don't know if I posted a couple videos from this weekend. It was a saucy affair. Well earned though. I'm not going to be negative. I'm not looking back. I'm only looking forward. I'm looking at Sunday and forward because to me, that is where we chop off one Browns era and we begin anew.
I got a question for you. Does not being I didn't know I was going to ask you this question today.
Ask me, bud.
Does not being negative mean you're going to pick less fights with other people on Twitter?
Am I picking the fights?
You did tell someone to stay in their lane yesterday.
Yeah. In my defense, that group of people mocked me.
Yes,
they did
for calling for Jameis Winston to play.
Yeah, okay? Me and Casey had this conversation. He said the exact same thing you're saying. Yeah,
it was more than mocking. You got called racist. You got called all kinds of things.
I get. You know what? That's a good point. I got called a racist for asking for Jameis Winston to start.
Make it make sense.
John wants it's the return of Heelberry.
I just want to say real quick because I really had intended to go to John Hillberry. John Hillberry runs the Lake Erie Emo Club, and they host emo nights all over the Cleveland area. And they were just at the Winchester on Friday night, and I didn't get to go. I'm still sad that I haven't got to go. John, I'm coming one of these times. But I love you, John. Hillberry season.
Somebody's gonna clip that part up. Part where he said, "John, I'm coming." Anyway, we got a lot to talk about. I wanted to start this off. I was really trying to consider where I wanted to be, where I wanted to start, like when I wanted to get to these comments and things like this. And what I find is really, really funny is the immediate how quickly people will backpedal and move goalposts and things of that nature. I have said before, the one thing that was frustrating to me, Casey, and you've kind of highlighted it, and you weren't here with us last week, and me and Nick went through a variety of negative emotions and all these things. And what really frustrated me was, like, I have been as staunch of a Kevin Stefanski supporter as you're going to find. I really like Andrew Berry. I will argue with you that everybody wants to say he can't draft. His hit rate is low. His hit rate is good for what actual hit rates are. People seem to think that third, fourth, and fifth round picks should be superstars within 5 games of their career, when a lot of times those guys are developmental players or guys that are just average players because they don't understand, that's why they were taken there instead of in first overall, but some things of that nature. But I was really in such a weird spot after the 1-6 start, because to me, I had finally started to get to blow it up territory. Like, I was getting there, because, and Casey, you kind of talked about it here. because you were forcing a guy out there saying that he gave you the best chance to win. And we all knew it wasn't true, but we couldn't necessarily prove it because we didn't see the other player, right? We didn't see Jameis Winston out there. I mean, I know because Watson was so bad, there was no way he couldn't have been better. But we didn't necessarily have like, oh, hey, Winston has started 2 games and looked great. We didn't have that yet. Mm-hmm. But we all knew it. Come on. We all knew it. Mm-hmm. Watson was putting up numbers in Jamarcus Russell territory. Let's be completely honest with ourselves. And the reason I was really leaning towards blow it up was not because I don't think these guys can't coach and I don't think these guys can't draft and Andrew Berry's a fantastic cap wizard and he's all these things. It's not because of that. It was because they were refusing to do the right thing. And if they were going to continue to refuse to do the right thing, that made me think, oh my God, they're going to bring Watson back next year and all these other things. And it was just like, I didn't think they couldn't do their job. I just didn't think they had the balls to do what they were supposed to do for their job. And if that's a problem, then that's the problem. And that's a fireable thing to me.
Jacob, if you play that,
and they prove the big. One more thing. I'll give it to you, Nick. And the one thing that you went out and proved this week was this roster that everybody gave AB credit for being really, really good is really good. This coaching staff that has been given all this credit for what they did last year is still capable of all of that stuff. And that just pisses me off that we're here because it's like, see, I fucking told you this guy can coach. See, I fucking told you this roster is good. See, I told you a competent level passer will light things up. These wide receivers can catch the ball. The offensive line, if they're throwing the ball faster than 6 seconds after the snap, the offensive line can be okay. Jameis Winston led the league in passing this week.
Led the league. That sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Sounds kind of familiar. I just want to interject that if you play that Kevin Stefanski clip of him saying Deshaun Watson gives us the best chance to win, I might throw whatever that viewing vice is right out the window. I might just chuck it because that's why I was so mad. That's why I was so mad because you knew we couldn't see Jameis, but oh my God, I know we're gonna get there. I think they knew. And that is part of.
That's what I've heard from sources. Is
I think they knew. Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I know Casey wants to go. I needed to get it out there.
Casey, you saw the comment from Noah, right, about Winston on the OBR?
When today?
It may have been today or yesterday. But anyway, he straight up said, it was him or Brad Stainbrook, straight up said that Winston was QB1 all summer long. And if they had been on the same contract in a legitimate quarterback competition, it wouldn't have even been close. Jameis would have been week 1 starter.
That's infuriating.
We're going to rewind just a little bit into your opening statements about being a fireable offense of basically just incompetence. The problem is they were all in lockstep. That was the plan. And it was hard because we were on that trajectory and they were straight up just steering the plane right into the mountain.
Yep.
And they were just going to let this guy be good or bad, whatever he is what this team's going to be this year. And it sucks for fans to hear that. And it sucks for everyone else in that locker room who's going out there and putting their life on the line, giving everything they got to fight, scratch, and claw to win when you had a quarterback that it was obvious that he wasn't going to be able to pull you across the finish line. If you were going to win, it was going to be in spite of him. And it's just, and if we didn't have the most recent proof of concept that we did from last year, then we might have been blind to it, but we knew what was capable. And when they signed Jameis, I was like, he can do every single thing Flacco can do and more. He's more athletic. He's a better leader. The physical characteristics are similar. He can run a little better than Flacco, but not worlds better. And then, Jameis isn't going to pull it down and get you 20. Like, that's not his game. No. But he's got that. He gives everyone on the field an opportunity. Offense, defense, similar to Joe. But receivers play for him, dude, because they know they're getting opportunities. They go out there to make plays because they know that ball's coming. Get your heads up, get your hands ready. Someone's getting this rock. You know what I mean? And then we got to see the full experience, And print the shirts, dude. Make football fun again.
Yep.
Like, how fun was Sunday?
Yep.
Just,
oh my God.
even when they weren't scoring touchdowns, just moving the ball. Like, and I don't shout out to Pete Smith because he said this first person I heard say it. Deshaun Watson is an energy vampire. You saw what happened when he was not present. The energy of the team was different. The vibes, it was all they actually played like it was all around football. It was special teams killed it. Defense was killing it. Like, everyone was bringing juice, and that's not all Jameis, but it's the subtraction of one guy that leads you to believe like this is the same group as the last 6 weeks, except for this one guy, and everything around it's different. Like, you can't discredit that, man.
Especially now
that the Jameis factor. The Jameis factor of he was born to lead, man. Yeah. He was leading from a backup position, for God's sakes. Yeah, him as how many of you guys out there are pumped that he gets to talk tomorrow in media sessions?
Me.
Brother, I've got some things to say about that. You go ahead and finish your thought because there's already some sound bites that I'm in love with.
Yeah, dude. I'm unwavering faith, ultimate belief.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This is the day the Lord has made, and I'm going to rejoice in it. Like, Jameis, dude, like, just the good vibes, man. And it's not going to take long because we were the villains of the NFL, large in part to the quarterback, and are underachieving. And all of a sudden, we're the bottom feeder of the league, and they're going to have the first overall pick. You saw it coming. You win this next game and get your bye. By the time you head to New Orleans, I believe Nicholas will be there.
I will.
We will be the feel-good story of the NFL, and that is because of 5. That's the reason. You get Nick Chubb back. You get Jameis. And then all of a sudden, this thing that was villainous and despised and a laughing stock, all of a sudden will be like the feel-good story of the league.
It's
and
exact
you
same.
Change that many things to make that happen.
It's the exact same thing that happened last year. As soon as he was gone and Flacco was there, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, we can celebrate Kevin Stefanski now. We can celebrate Amari Cooper having a career year. We can celebrate Jerome Ford showing up.
It took a little while longer last year because I think people were in disbelief that Joe Flacco was doing what he was doing a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Waiting for him to turn back into a pumpkin. I don't think it'll be the same with Jameis.
Yeah.
Because he's so vocal when he's in. Like Good Morning Football this morning, and you know what I mean. He'll be present in ways that Joe just isn't that guy. Joe, I'm not saying Joe's not a leader, but he's not vocal. He's not like the face of everything. Whereas Jameis, I don't think he even intends to be. But Jameis is genuinely himself, and when he's genuinely being himself, he's one of the most entertaining people in all the league. Like I've been ready for this moment.
Ja talking about how much love that he thinks the Saints are going to show Jameis when he's down there.
Really cool.
He expects them to lose the game. He was saying he's been telling us. I know you've been telling us, Ja. Well, you've been in here the whole time telling us about Winston. We're right there with you, man. We were just begging and begging for him to be out there and to be playing. Dude, go ahead, Nick.
I just want to add, there was in the message about Watson was still coming from really big members of Cleveland's media as well. There's just such a bizarre surrounding narrative around this whole thing. And it's the only way we were going to get here is if Deshaun got hurt, because they were still maintaining he gave them the best chance to win. And so I just want to add to those because I know we're going to talk about Jameis the person, because that seems to be even greater than Jameis Winston the player, and that is what makes this story so good. To go from this one polar place to this new polar place is crazy. But I just want I put it out there today that so Jameis comes into the fourth quarter, so over a little over 4 quarters played, he has 4 touchdowns. Entering Sunday, the Browns had thrown, I should just say, Deshaun Watson had thrown 5 passing touchdowns in a little under 6 games. So Winston almost has as many touchdowns as he did in 4.25 quarters as Watson did in 5.75 or whatever you want to call it.
He's got more 300-yard games than Deshaun Watson has in 2.5 years. Last
stat. Entering the day, Rodney McLeod was the Browns touchdown leader with 2. Okay. So since Jameis has come in, David Njoku has caught touchdowns in back-to-back weeks and now has 2. Cedric Tillman just Bro, I know we're going to talk about him, so I don't want to linger too much. But Cedric Tillman and David Njoku both have 2 touchdowns. It happened in 4.25 quarters. We couldn't do that in almost 6 full weeks of football. So
4 different pass catchers had at least 6 receptions and over 60 yards.
Elijah Moore finally looked like the guy I thought he was when he was drafted in the 2nd round, and the dude that you guys remember that I was ecstatic to get Elijah Moore last year.
Yes, you were.
He was a draft crush of mine a couple of years ago, and it was tough for me to watch him not produce, and it was really tough because he was open. And don't get me wrong, he had some bad drops to start the year, absolutely, 100%. I know all of those things, but it's like all of a sudden you're like, yep, there it is. There it is. There's that Elijah Moore guy. He's that route he ran. Was that Kyle Hamilton? I said it on the OBR post-game show. I think it was Kyle Hamilton. He runs an in, comes back out.
Yeah.
And that was the best route I've seen them run. And I'll get there. I see your comment. I'm going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to brag about it. I'll get there. Don't you worry.
Well, he was utilized closer to what he was in that Jets game last year. So I think you're seeing the way Elijah Moore needs to be utilized.
Yeah. With a quarterback that gives him a chance. And the thing is, the ultimate gives him a chance that you said it. I've said it. We said it on the OBR. Like, everybody's like, Jameis is going to give you a chance to make a play.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate
example. That goes to the defense too.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a chance to make a play.
Everybody in the stadium. That dude throws some passes where you're like, Jameis, what are you doing, brother? But it's fun, but the ultimate, what do you mean he gives you a play? That David Njoku touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Go watch the David. If you want to encapsulate what we mean by giving him a chance, you go watch that play. That's not a throw that Watson makes. I saw someone say this on Twitter, that Watson takes a sack on that play. And I'm like, he does. He absolutely does. Because he probably touches whatever. But that's the ultimate, hey, I think my guy's paying attention while this guy is not. Mm-hmm. I think I'm just going to see what happens, Oh, boom. You gave a freak athlete the opportunity to go make a play, and he made it. Shocker.
Do you remember the Houston touchdown that Joe Flacco threw to David Njoku? I bet you if you put that touchdown and Winston's touchdown next to each other, they're damn near the same type of ball that just gives him a chance, and just that Watson would never throw. He just wouldn't. And both Flacco and Winston are willing.
The old Watson would have.
The old one, not this one.
Not this one. Yeah, I did. This is a good point, though. Kyle Hamilton became Kadarius Toney on the Browns' last drive. And we thank him for that.
And Elijah Moore was open on that play. It's just a terrible overthrow.
Oh yeah, he's wide open.
He's open like that. I get the read. It's just like you gotta get that ball down, man.
Yeah, get that a little bit down because it wasn't even close.
No. Moore could at least tried to sell for it, but he wasn't going to get that. Randy Moss might not have touched it. Like that.
I was gonna say, that's when being a slightly undersized wide receiver
down the field.
Him.
The ball hung for a little bit, and the stadium could see it, and it just goes quiet, and we're just and then he dropped it. We're like, ah!
And then on 3rd and long, right after almost throwing one of the worst picks you've ever seen, he's just like, whatever, down there somewhere.
And that's the epitome of throwing a guy open, because if you look at that play, Tillman's in the slot. He pushes vertical on the safety. He fakes just a head movement inside and takes over the top. He's not open when Jameis threw it. He's beside him, but he left him. And it was just perfect right on the goal line. Like, he knew his guy had leverage, and he just trusted the guy to make a play.
Flacco wins an AFC championship.
We're going to get the opportunity. Here's the thing, though. We're kind of battling for the same playoff spot because we have dug so much of a hole.
Yeah.
And if we're going to think in grandiose things, I'm just thinking about this week. But if you really want to open it up, you got the Saints on the other side of the bye. They're not really lighting the world on fire like they did when they started the season. You get Pittsburgh at home on a Thursday night. With Jameis, I like our odds there. Then you go to Monday night against Denver. Denver's better than we expected, but they're not world beaters. You do have to go to Pittsburgh after that. That's tough. And not that I even consider Pittsburgh a good team. They're at home. They're going to be tough to beat.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look how the schedule plays out. You do have the Chiefs. That's rough. Dolphins ain't what the Dolphins were supposed to be. I'm not scared of the Bengals with Jameis. Like if Jameis is the backup quarterback for that game that we just had with Cincinnati, I think we win that.
You know
what I mean? Like I don't think. And then you finish up with the Ravens, and who knows what they're playing for? But even if they are playing for everything, I'll like our odds in a gunfight if we're going to go do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you just about beat the Eagles in a game that was just pathetic, and then the Eagles just smacked down the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
They just took them out to the woodshed and beat the shit out of them.
That's the frustrating part about what we're watching right now, because you cannot convince me that the worst we would be if Jameis had started this year is 4-4, the absolute worst.
Agreed.
More likely you're 6-2 or 5-3
games in. Yeah.
Well, they beat the Raiders. They beat the Raiders.
They beat the Giants. They beat the Raiders. They beat
they beat the Giants.
Dude, I don't think they lose to the Commanders if you make that switch at halftime.
Well,
when they should have. That should have been the natural order of things. You gave the dude a shot. He sucked all the dick, and then you pulled the trigger. And at halftime of that game was the time to pull the trigger. And if you do that, I think you're probably no worse than 4-4 right now. Instead of sitting at 2-6.
I mean, you're thinking
that's a rough spot to dig out of, but we've seen teams do this
last year. The 2023 Rams were 3-6, and they made the playoffs. They went to Detroit and gave us that magic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's a chance.
But it starts this week. Period. You have to take care of the Chargers. Has any team in NFL history beat the Harbaugh brothers back-to-back weeks?
That's hard to do.
That's an intrusive thought that just crept in my head.
That's an interesting one. I wonder how many teams have had that opportunity.
Probably not a lot, right?
Yeah, because he was NFC. Because one of them was NFC for all. Jim was NFC for
Baltimore.
Most of his NFL career, anyway.
Just a thought I had.
I'm doing this fun exercise. You know where we are. Even if you say, "Hey, you're not going to make the playoffs," and I know it's a long shot or whatever. Even if you tell me right now, if somebody from the future says you're not going to make the playoffs, we get to have a lot of fun here. Like just thinking about all these what ifs. Like Jameis is going to give. You've talked about it, Casey. I know I'm missing somebody else that's talked about it, and I think I've talked about it a little bit. You're going to at least be able to properly evaluate the rest of this roster with quarterback play. Like you're going to be able to say, okay, how bad is the offensive line? How much do we need to fix? How bad is our wide receiver core? How much do we need to fix? On offense, on all of that stuff. It actually even helps you evaluate the defense because defense doesn't have to be on the, this was a game where the time of possession was almost identical.
Yeah, 29 something, 30 something. I checked that out.
It was what?
It was 29 something to 30 something. I mean, it was like within 30 seconds of each other.
Yeah. So right there, right down the middle, you're pretty much, but like, so you even help them in that situation where you're now able to say, okay, if nothing else, we get to really have a good outlook on 2025 from Jameis Winston being out there because you've got questions like, is Jerry Jeudy like
a guy for your future?
He's already under contract, but yes, is Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, and re-signing Elijah Moore a good combination? You know what I mean? Like, is that something that you want to do, and then maybe throw in a rookie or whatever, and then you get this awesome, interesting. I'm so glad they put DeWand out there at left tackle because it was always going to be what if he never got to play a rep out there? It's going to be what if we put him there? Because that's all off season. That's what everybody wants to know. It's like, because left tackle, because even right now, Jack Conklin's playing really well. Like Jack Conklin's playing well, and we don't know how long that'll last, but you're like, okay, you're good at right. You don't want the left tackle to be a total liability. You throw him out there. He lets up 3 pressures. Okay, that's going to happen. But like, it becomes this really crazy and fun outlook on a season that was just 6 days ago. whatever, 3 days ago.
It's
Before Sunday, it was just absolutely miserable. And now you're looking at things like, I'm doing this fun exercise over at the OBR. Hopefully get it done by Thursday or Friday night, I'm hoping for. But I'm doing another mock draft. But in this mock draft, I'm assuming the Browns re-sign Jameis Winston to a contract extension, and DeJuan Jones plays well the rest of the way out at left tackle. And I'm hoping they give him that chance. And I think they're willing to give him more. We'll find out in the next coming days. They don't they barely talk to us on Monday. They don't do anything on Tuesday. So now we'll start to find out in the next couple of days. But in this exercise, I think you have your quarterback of 2025 and your left tackle of 2025. And all of a sudden, I got a first-round wide receiver. Like, all of a sudden, I've got a first-round wide receiver, and I'm drafting Joel Bitonio's replacement, who doesn't even necessarily have to play next year if Joel wants to play again. But instead of trying to be like, man, it has to be a left tackle, I'm like, what's the best offensive lineman? And in this simulation, it was a left guard. And like, that's freaking awesome, because you may need to replace your center too. And so you're doing all of this stuff, and it's like, okay, now this starts to become interesting, because you no longer are looking at a team that you want to blow up everything, including the roster, if this works out. And those are big ifs, big, massive ifs. The good thing is, Nick, me and you talked about this last week. I'm like, the good thing is you get the rest of the season. You get double-digit weeks. There's not double-digit weeks anymore, but there was double-digit weeks with competent quarterback play, potentially, as long as Jameis doesn't get hurt, all that good stuff. But it's a big enough sample size to where you can feel confident one way or another if you roll that back.
This is messed up, okay? But there is some good that has already come, and more good that will come out of starting as bad as they did. Because once you get to this point where entering this week, they're 1-6, you're like, all right, we're going to try stuff, because we're looking at the season and saying, we're not going to the playoffs right now, right? So maybe that's why you throw DeJuan Jones at left tackle. Maybe that's why you say, okay, I'll give up the play calling to Ken Dorsey and let's try that. Maybe that's why you trade Amari Cooper and you give Cedric Tillman this opportunity so that he can showcase, are you going to be what's the ceiling here? I don't know, but that was a hell of a performance that we probably don't get without Amari Cooper, right? There's a lot of changes that they made, and I get it. So like you said, so much has changed, in 1 week, but there's a lot of changes that they made entering this week that they never would have even considered if they were even 4-4, right? Probably not. So
I just want to hit this real quick. They're talking about Deshaun. I don't think you cut Deshaun because it can't,
because all that money comes home soon.
But you can, as you kind of highlighted here, you can play with a 52-man roster and just send him home. That's what Houston did, and that's what they should do.
Well, he's going to be on the PUP start next year. It's an Achilles. He's not going to be physically cleared for activity by the opening game. So he's going to start off on the PUP. And Jack talked about what that means for insurance purposes. We know that we'll have an additional $14 million on the salary cap next year because of the insurance policy they have on him. You don't get it this year; you get it the year after. And we don't know how much is going to be triggered if he's on the PUP next year. But there's some contingencies. They've CYA'd themselves as much as possible, considering it's a fully guaranteed contract. But
that came from the restructure this year, correct?
You'd have to talk to Mr. Jack Duffin.
I thought
direct all your questions to Jack. Jack knows this inside and out. He's a tremendous resource, and if you're not following him, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to go back to the root of this with all the changes. As a problem solver, which is what I am by nature, I don't like that they made all the changes at once, because it's giving wiggle room for people to point at things now, like, oh, Watson would have been better with this offensive line. Oh, Watson would have been better with this play caller, as if it's because there's too many variables. Because if it's just the quarterback and the play calling is the same and the line's the same and it's a completely different outcome, we have a more definitive, ta-da. But they're able to move the goalpost because you've changed so much now that I'm seeing it on all kinds of social media. This offensive line is way different. It's not really. He just got a guy who's getting rid of the ball on time, and he's not moving the pocket, so guys are not out of position holding, and they know the ball's coming out, so they're not illegally downfield. All those things. And the play calling, that looked like a Kevin Stefanski offense to me.
It was the same plays and schemes, just a different play caller. Because people were trying to swear up and down, like, well, but if Dorsey was calling the plays, I'm like, just like you, I'm like, those are the same concepts. They're just being executed.
Buddy, they're under center. I'm seeing a lot of things that we've seen in the past. Anyway, obviously, but if it took all those changes for me to get my sweet prince on the field, so be it. I'm going to. That's the ultimate goal. Is we needed an NFL trigger man who made you feel good about watching football on Sundays. We got that. So whatever it took to get there, I just wish we wouldn't have given the wiggle room for the other people. And I hope this doesn't affect any minds in Berea that because Dorsey's not calling plays, maybe we need to see what it looks like calling plays for this guy.
Right. Yeah, that would be no more of that. I don't think okay. So I am fully on the train of expecting this to go well moving forward. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I think that will take care of a lot of the problems in itself. But I'd like to say this because I thought about it as you were both talking. So last year, over the final 5 starts of Joe Flacco with the Browns, not including the playoffs, he led the league in passing, right? Mm-hmm. So now Jameis Winston has made his first start and led the league in passing. You're looking at an offense that without Deshaun starting has, and you're not going to use the Jeff Driscoll week, obviously, but not including playoffs, they led the league in passing the final 5 weeks of Joe Flacco and now with Jameis. So that's 6 straight weeks. I know I get it's cherry picking a little bit, but you led the league in passing and you traded away your best wide receiver.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, we also need to talk about the elephant in the room is Joe did what he did last year almost out of necessity because they couldn't run the football. So they had to do what they had to do they were running efficiently on Sunday.
Is there a difference in the run game this year, Casey?
He's coming. About that. He's coming.
Look, man. And shout out to Deonta Foreman too. Let's be real. Like that was by far the best we've seen him look. I even gave him a shout out as an honorable mention for my stock up. Like if he can be that guy to Nick Chubb's like thunder thing that we got going on.
There were several plays in that game that I said out loud. Oh, look, there's Nick Chubb doing Nick Chubb things. Mm-hmm. Oh, there it is. He only got in the open field like that one play or whatever, and you can see he's still working his way back. But as that game went on, it just looked more and more like Nick Chubb, and you're like, okay, he ends up with 16 carries. Like that's a good workload. Like I mean, he and obviously. You'll see, we assume that there's no injuries or anything of that nature that came out of it because he played, and all that good stuff. And so I think that would be a real good test for him was yesterday, today. We won't know, obviously, like how did he wake up and feel these last couple of days after that's not a full workload, but there's been plenty of games where he's in that range, that 16 to 20 carry range. I think that's probably where they want him is around 20 carries because they don't want to overuse him. They want to spread it to the other guys. I'm going to tell you right now, and this is even Dante Foreman excluded because I do like Foreman. Everybody knows that watches the show that I like Foreman. The Jerome Ford we were getting before he got hurt, if that guy is the guy that comes back and Nick Chubb gets to Nick Chubb and you can play action, even the play action works even better. You know what I mean? Like, because they were doing some damage on that under center play action. And like Jameis was just thriving in it. If that Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb come back together, man, it could just be fun. And then you get to look at it like, if we re-sign Nick Chubb, you still have Jerome Ford under contract next year. And if those two guys come back in 2025 fully healthy, that's a really great place for a run game to be.
Keep in mind, Jerome Ford had the second most receiving touchdowns of any running back last year, right? And that was in Nick Chubb's stead. And so you put him back there, which I wanted to give a lot of credit to Nick, because normally when running backs, especially with what the injury that Nick went through, they'd be ramped up a lot more slowly. I felt like they treated Nick like the running back one yesterday. And for him to already be back to this point that he is so impressive. And I just love it. I love it for him now. I love it for him. I feel so good for him that he's going to get to play on an offense that is actually competent, right? Like, he didn't rehab for nothing. He didn't
Yes.
I know, I get it. The playoffs are a long shot, right? But at least you brought him back.
Ultimate long shot franchise, brother.
Right. He deserves the opportunity to display all the work that he put in, to go out there and showcase what he's got and prove he should get an extension. That could be a huge, there's, even if they don't make the playoffs, just the ability to run this type of offense gives you so much more evidence. Like, nobody had any idea that Cedric Tillman had that in him until Jameis Winston comes out there, right? Like, there's so much opportunity here to learn so much and really solidify, because if they do this a second year in a row, you are solidifying that you are indisputably good at this, at offense, at figuring out how to put points on the board. And it becomes very obvious, without debate, that Deshaun can never be out there for you again. And I think that is so important for the whole direction of this franchise, that they have to perform to that and make it clear, because then you have a direction. And that's the biggest problem is when we were without you last week, Jacob and I are just throwing stuff over at this wall and that wall, and we're not sure what sticks, what direction,
where the hell we go.
Right. But if you put out this type of offense, you make it very clear. And that would be the greatest win of this season at this point, is that you went through this entire franchise altering trade and it's not working, and you need to figure out what to do, right? Like, the Colts are in a similar situation, not similar. The Colts are trying to figure out their quarterback future, right? So it's just having direction is so important. And that's what I hope to get out of all of this season, I guess.
Jameis Winston, Geno Smith 2.0. Let's do it.
I think he's better.
I do too.
I think he's better than Geno. I think he has a higher ceiling than Geno. I think Geno's Geno's been able to do is bring up a very high floor.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I do think that Jameis's upper bound limits are bigger than Geno.
He's got a better arm, but
he's the first overall fucking pick.
He's definitely got a better arm, but he takes more chances.
Yes.
So it's like, where's the trade-off there? Yeah.
Yeah. And Stefanski's kind of risk adverse. But look, man, you can't argue how much more explosive they were.
He led the league in passing this week. Literally, you didn't have a game where you crossed 200 passing yards from your starting quarterback. And then in one game, it was so completely different than what we had seen for the first 6 games.
And I'm going to go over the place real quick.
Go for it.
Okay, so what were we touting Jerry Jeudy? Jerry Judy's nasty after the catch. I haven't seen him do dick after the catch this year. Why? Because he's not getting thrown the ball in stride.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see him do damage after the catch.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that's a 28-yard completion, And you caught it on a little shallow drag and turned upfield, and you start to see that's what he's good at. Cool. Let's keep that. Let's do that a couple times a game.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Moore, like you said, look, he got loose. He was out there running routes, wasn't playing a little slot gadget guy, was actually doing work on the outside. And when we draft Cedric Tillman, he had some injury problems at Tennessee, but when he was healthy, what was he? He was strong. He was a deep threat. He was good on slant and go balls. Well, I saw him catch a slant on the 15 turn upfield, and a free safety made a business decision, went low, broke right through that, touchdown. Second time he touches it, on the next time he touches it, he breaks another tackle. He did a man play where he caught it and 2 dudes hit the ground trying to tackle him, and he fights for more yards. And then you see him get loose for the game winner. So what I'm seeing from Jameis Winston, he's elevating the play of those around him. And for me, that's priority 1 as a quarterback.
Yes.
You got to be a leader of men, and you got to raise everyone's play around you. And we saw that. And it's one game, and I'm not trying to say that it's guaranteed every single game. Got to go one game at a time. Stiff competition against the Chargers. Chargers defense, pretty damn good. They play hard. Tough thing in front of you. But I'm going to backpedal a little more when we talk about Nick Chubb. This is some football nerd shit, and I haven't been able to watch the All-22 the last 2 weeks because I didn't want to, because it was that bad. I didn't want to relive it. I was happy to dig back in through this one.
Yes, sir.
Hell
My
yeah.
man Nick Chubb on Pass Pro, God damn it, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, man. There were so many times that, I mean, this isn't a slight on Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford's not a pass protector. But when he was in these same situations, that pressure gets to the quarterback. Nick cuts that off at the root, man. Like, as soon as you breach that line of scrimmage, you're going to get 2-4. And that's where it stops. You're not shaking Nick Chubb off, like.
Now he's going to hit you in the mouth.
And that's the little stuff. That's not anything per carry. That's not, like, it's not a touch, but like that matters.
Mm-hmm.
That matters. And that unwavering belief that Jameis has in the protection to stand in the pocket, stand and deliver, and know he might take a hit, but if he knows his boy's going to try to get his back, like that plays into it. When you're asking a quarterback to stand and deliver, not a lot of guys can do that. Jameis is one because he believes in the play, he believes in the guys around him, and he believes that whoever he throws that ball to is going to go make a play. And it's just you see it all come together on the All-22, and you can't do nothing but smile, man. Like it makes me mad again that it was on the bench just chilling, and then we could have been living this life for a little while, but it's here now, and
I'll tell you,
we have a functional offense, boys. And for that defense, that matters because you're out there selling out, and you know that if it's just 3 and out, and you're just constantly putting yourself out there, only bad things will happen. And it's hard to ask those guys. Now they know, man. If we get the ball back for these guys, they're probably going to go score. Mm-hmm. That matters, man. That matters.
There's unmeasurable body language things that you're seeing in the clips from the team that they're putting out right now. Look, I saw Juan Thornhill put a W in his mouth and eat it. You know what I'm saying? And then you've got obviously, Casey, you early in the show mentioned, some of these Jameis quotes.
Oh God, I'm glad you reminded me because I got one. Go ahead.
Like, yeah. And so I'm looking for it right now because the one love, one team, one heartbeat, and he's getting everybody else to chant it. And there's just like, I had some people arguing with me today, and I know you can't measure it, but like that type of unity stuff really matters when you're going out there. And Casey, you're saying you got to sell out to make these plays, and it's like stuff like that is so important. And it has never been more obvious you weren't getting any of that before. It's like, I think that makes such a difference. It's a big part of why I said they're going to beat LA, they're going to beat New Orleans, and then they're going to beat Pittsburgh on Thursday night. And then Jameis is going to solidify himself as the long-term starter. That's how bought in that just listening to him has me.
You motherfucker. That was the quote I was going for. And you just, I in my back pocket for half an hour, and you just slid into the comments and stole it. How dare you?
Talk about it, Jacob.
Dude, when he was like mid-rant, right? Like he was going on, he was talking about it, and then all of a sudden he's like, there's that white boy from Detroit named Eminem. It's just, I just lost my shit. And then he starts quoting, he's like, you only get one shot. And I'm like, you're not doing this, are you, right now?
Buddy.
like you're doing this right now? I'm like, this is fantastic. You know what I learned today? Jameis Winston was the first ever guest on Good Morning Football. Did you know that?
No, but it's.
They said that during his interview. They showed it. They showed the clip of him, the first Good Morning Football. He was the first ever player interview on that. That was 2018. Was that his rookie year, 2018,
no,
or was that
2015? He was drafted in 2015.
So 3 or 4 years into
his career. Won a natty in 13, had a weird year because of the suspension the next year, and then he was first overall pick in the 2015 draft.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the quote from today was, "You can't tell me the sky's the limit when there's people on the moon."
Yeah.
Just
and you could tell,
come on, man.
You could tell that just came to him.
It did. He was saying the sky's the limit. He's like, wait. It was just saying the
Did you-
pregame, because you would think like that he has these things pocketed to say, but you heard the pregame speech in the locker room as they're in the tunnels are heading out.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh
Play
wait,
for
we
your
don't."
brother, play for the name on the back of your jersey, play for the on your helmet. Wait, we don't have decals. Anyway, play. You know what I mean? Like he's genuinely himself, man. And if you think he's corny, whatever, dude. I love that guy. I love that guy.
Oh, he said 2016 was the episode, so it was his second year. It was his second year.
But it was their first year as a show.
Yeah.
Just
But yeah,
so good.
Dude, the decal thing had me losing my shit. We don't have a decal, but that didn't stop him. It wasn't like he just rolled with
it. It was a speed bump.
Yeah, he's
right over that.
I've never seen a quarterback personally. I have never. I sent this before we went live. He is one of the most inspiring people I have ever listened to. I don't care if I don't think that's hyperbole. It's not hyperbole. I can't remember a show. I smiled so much and like just laughed from just words from a quarterback. It's weird. I know this sounds dramatic, but like he's inspiring.
You know, it's like that in 2020 when Baker was sliding all those rap lyrics into all of his press conferences. It's like that, but always. It like every interview is that. Like Baker would only do that in like after wins and stuff, like in the post games and stuff like that, which it was clearly like a bet or a locker room thing that they were doing, and it was just like this running gag. But like that's Jameis Winston all the time, and it's not planned. Like you said, Casey, like he doesn't have these things in his back pocket. They just come into because you can see it. Did you I just remember him ranking all those foods, all those fast food places, and Krispy Kreme comes up as the last one, and he's pissed because all he had left
Dunkin' Donuts.
He's like, that would have been above Dunkin' Donuts.
He had 3, by the way.
Yeah, right. He had to put it at 6. Mm-hmm. He had to put it at 6 because that was the only one that was left, but he was very upset about it. But you can tell he was just off the cup. He wasn't even thinking about it. Like he put Duncan at 3, not even considering what else might possibly come up. He was just like, nah, man, because this is just who he is. I think it does remain the whole they were fed up comment thing that was really interesting from Bo Bishop, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't know, like everybody they all seem to love Winston. It's like it's weird. I don't know. Like there was this stuff about changing plays and some things where I think
and being so present in media, and for a backup quarterback, that's not common. It isn't. No. I mean, backup quarterbacks have a show. They get, you know what I mean? Like it's not.
But now he's winning, and nobody gives a shit if you're winning. Like he won the game, so if he goes out there and wins more, like nobody's gonna care. I do want to pivot just a little to the tail end of the show here, just to pivot to some other things that are not the offense. And I'm glad we spent as much time on the offense as we did. But let's talk about
how so dreadful the whole year to actually get to like speak nice. I guess it feels good. Yes. Feel good.
It's so much fun.
It was so much fun.
I miss this.
We pivot to talk about how right I was about Mahmoud Diabate.
Cook.
I was right. Casey was too, to be fair. Like Casey was there as well. Like maybe even louder than me, even more confident than me. But I just pretend that it was me and not anybody else.
I wrote about him today, dude. The evolution of him should be studied, man. We're talking about a guy in college who was primarily a rush backer off the edge. Yeah. Very little off ball play, and what he looked like last preseason was just this raw athletic dude who was just out there making plays. But now you're watching him just read keys and trigger so quick. Like, he had 5 snaps at free safety in that game. How? He was on the field for 59 defensive snaps. Diabate was everywhere, and they're going to need him to be. I don't know how serious this is with JOK. We might find out something tomorrow. But it'll probably be Bush and Diabate more than likely this week. Because even if JOK's fine, the bye's on the other side of this. I can't see them rushing him back.
But Diabate went from a dude that was just always out athleting people to a linebacker. Like you said. Yeah, like a real legitimate linebacker. Like and you and I even talked about this, that we really wanted to see them use him as a rush backer because because when he transfers, where was he at first? Was that Florida State?
He was at Florida and then he went to Utah.
Okay, so when he goes to Utah, that's the first time he ever really played off-ball backer at all. And they didn't play him primarily there.
No.
But they did play him at both because before that he was an edge rusher. That's what he was at Florida. And he was good at it. He was pretty good at it. It was hey, this is a good. And so me and you talked about it all the time. It's well, if they need a juice, situational rusher, when Ogbo was hurt last year and things like that, it's you could throw him out there. It's oh, that would be Brian says if he went engineers 7 more wins, he'll send him a whole case of crab legs.
And even overload situations, if you're going to overload one side of a line, if you bring Diabate as the edge on an overload, I feel like he'll get home.
Yeah, he's really good at. He is a J. I wouldn't put him up there, but all the way at JOK level of an athlete, he is a really good.
I think he had 5 snaps. He had 5 snaps, 2 snaps at edge, 5 at slot, 5 at free safety, and 50 at off-ball backer, something like that. Some mixture of that.
He's a freaky level athlete that was just an incredibly raw ball of energy flying all over the field and didn't know what to do with it. Well, he kind of looks like he knows what to do with it now.
Yes, he does.
I just want to comment on this really, really quickly because in every clip that they release of Jameis Winston talking, his teammates are progressively more and more and more involved. If they thought he was corny, they would not be eating W's and echoing his chants and participating in his stuff. They do not think he's corny. Maybe to some people he appears that way, but the team is showing they're listening to him and rallying around him.
I think that they might think he's a little bit corny, but I think they love it.
Yeah.
The difference is if it'd be performative. If this was only on game days, is the only days he acts like this. But they're around that dude all the time, and that dude's that dude all the time. So that's just who he is. And they, you can see it in their eyes when he's talking.
Oh my God!
Nobody's looking down. Nobody's It's when Jameis talks to you when he's doing a presser and he's talking to the presser, you can tell, man, he's intense. His eyes, he makes contact. He makes emotional connection. When he talks, he's going to be a fantastic preacher when his career is over. Book that. But you can see it when he's doing the pregame speeches. Those dudes are locked in. They're in on it. You know what I mean? You can call it corny, whatever, man. If you're being yourself, it's being yourself. If you're being performative, that to me, that's when it becomes, shtick.
So I just want to say you're both really smart for being able to evaluate and identify Diabate. And that's awesome. And so I feel like you both deserve a pat on the back for that. But in a larger observation from the Browns, they're starting to put together a pretty decent list of undrafted free agents that have come in and contributed for them. And that's a really encouraging, I know not.
To build off of that, everybody that says Andrew Berry can't draft, does that count?
So, okay, yes, it counts. It absolutely counts. And I've been critical of Andrew Berry's drafting. So in his defense, I have to start pointing out, you got a huge boost from Harrison last year, who you got as an undrafted free agent. Obviously, you're getting it from Diabate right now. I think about D'Anthony Bell was also an undrafted free agent, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes,
so that's 3 guys right off the top of my head that I can think of that you had to spend nothing on and have gotten and have been, impactful for you. That's a feather in his cap. It's a feather in his cap.
Let ego aside, because for those guys to make it, he had to let go of some guys he drafted.
Right.
Yeah, some guys that kind of evaluation after you get guys in building, because it's different when you're watching tape and you're thinking you're trying to project what he's going to be for us, but then you actually get them in and you have to evaluate him, and you can't just keep a guy just because you couldn't just keep Richard the count of D'Anthony Bell's better. You have to make decisions, and to their credit, they've. And they did the same thing with Cohen this year. That's another guy that we haven't seen yet, but and people want to judge that in 2 or 3 years. And if he's a bust, then you can hold it against him. But, you got to let these things play out. And there's just an inability to do that. But I was thinking of one player that he drafted with a second round pick that looks really good right now is Grant Delpit.
God,
Grant Delpit, dude. He
How about
trucked Derrick Henry and put the too small on him. Did you guys see that?
Yes, I
did
did.
you see where then somebody was like, Grant Delpit just gave him the too small. He's going to regret that. And after the game, Grant Delpit quote tweeted that tweet with that.
I did not
Man,
see that.
the
That's
player.
awesome. I love that.
Think about some of the second round picks, man. Like JOK is a second round pick for him. Grant Delpit's a second round pick. A guy that, like, we just saw it in the comments. Michael Hall looks like a dude that's gonna be a dude, which is what a lot of people said. It was just like, when's he gonna do it? And then you have the off the field situation, and then now he's working his way back out there. But it was clear once he was active, they were essentially healthy scratching Quentin Jefferson and moving on from him almost because of Michael Hall. That kind of tells you where they are with that. I'm trying to think of his other second round picks that are not coming.
They haven't had any. They keep
bitch, you're right,
Yeah.
because Elijah Moore caused them to go into the third.
Mhm.
They traded the other one and then eventually it was Martin Emerson. That
looks good on Sunday, right? You trade number 42 and you get what you had on Sunday, and you get Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman.
Correct.
42.
Elijah Moore is one of the biggest questions, man, because especially I remember against the Jets, he crosses 100 yards. He looks like he's going to have a real breakout game because if I remember right, Cooper wasn't in. So Elijah Moore stepped up
he was out
and was their wide receiver one. And we were like, hey, there's something happening.
Moore got a
here.
concussion in the game and had to come out.
Right. He gets concussed. And then we go back to this hot dog water offense. And now Jameis Winston's out there and suddenly, oh, hey, Elijah Moore's producing again.
It's just funny. That's what's so frustrating about it, is because you had people calling for their jobs, rightfully so. And it's not over. 2-6, it's not over. They've still got to do more. They've got to win more games. They got to do a ton more. But if it trends in this direction, you're talking about how frustrating it is that, like, people were calling for their jobs, and I think rightfully so. Like, if it had continued down that road, I was close to being done with them. And everybody knows how I feel about Stefanski and Barry. Like, I'm as staunch of supporters of them as anybody. But I was like, and it's going to get there. Like, we're going to get there, and we're going to see if they get there. We appreciate that, Brian.
We love it.
We got to see if they continue it. Can you build off it? Can you do more of this stuff? But then, like, because Casey, you and I talked about this. I talked with Nick about this last week. One thing I had concerns about blowing it up was, like, are you going to get somebody who can manage the current cap situation the way Barry can? I didn't feel like you were going to. And obviously that's not and I even said this on Sports for CLE, like, that's not a good reason to keep a general manager. So you didn't want that to be the only reason you run it back in 2025. You want the roster to actually prove that it's as good as we thought it was. And they were spending more money on that offense than anywhere, and that offense couldn't do anything. Well, that looked like an expensive offense on Sunday. Am I out of my lane saying that? Like,
no,
they led the league in passing. Get what you pay for.
And Nick Chubb's coming. Nick Chubb's coming. You better believe it.
Yeah.
Like, you better believe that's coming. And then all of a sudden, it's crazy what a difference a week can make. But if this starts trending, and you sit there and you're like, maybe we don't need to draft a quarterback. Like, I'm doing a mock for the OBR, and I'm taking a 4th round quarterback. Mm-hmm. You know how awesome it is to just take a 4th round quarterback and just be like, you know what? Maybe this guy develops and sits behind Jameis for a couple years, whatever. Sure. And if it doesn't work out, you take one later in a later year or whatever, that sort of thing. But in this exercise, for me, I'm essentially predicting that DeJuan established himself at left tackle and Winston earns an extension just for the thought exercise of it. It just really puts you in such a place where you're like, this is sustainable.
Yep. Don't trade anyone.
So you have to get there. You still have a lot of work to do. But if you go the direction you are going, sweet. That's my thought.
My biggest takeaway, though, is I got to be honest. Say Kyle Hamilton comes up with that pick. Say Tillman doesn't catch that game winner.
Sure.
We're still feeling so much better about where they're at.
Yes.
Just the performance.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of it hinges on wins and losses, and the wins immensely better than the loss.
Yes.
But like we watched a watchable product. I had a good time on Sunday. Nick, I could tell you had a good time on Sunday.
I had a good time.
I called him twice. I don't know if he could hear anything I ever said to him, but he was just screaming at me. And the second time I called him, I could not understand him. His voice was gone by then.
The stadium, we were barking, yelling, hooting the whole. It was one of my favorite victory walks. It was just jubilance. Jubilance, is that a word? I don't know. What a day!
That was the day the Lord has made, and you rejoiced in it.
I'm just blown away by how much. Like, I walked out of there after the Giants game dejected. Just I'm going home. I'm not talking to anybody. Me and Andy stayed downtown for quite a while.
You said till 10 p.m.
We started quite early in the morning. That was it was a marathon affair.
That was about a 17-hour, wasn't it?
It was a long one.
Yeah.
I called you early in the morning, and I was in a place, and we just kept going because it was so much fun. It was so much fun. It was like reminded me of so much of last year, and I can't. My biggest takeaway, and I cannot leave the show without saying this, is last year when we finished the season, we felt really good about saying David Njoku ascended to the elite class of tight ends in the NFL. He's taking his place there. He's going to be a top 5 tight end. He's going to be this star. And we haven't really seen hide nor hair of him early in the year. And if I'm not mistaken, he was injured for a little bit there. So that definitely plays a part. But it is amazing because Jameis didn't even have to play a full quarter. And David Njoku was right back to catching touchdowns, jump balls, just winning at the point of attack. No big deal. And he's a stud. He's a star. He just needed a quarterback. And I really think that the offense can go to such a different place because it's like they only got 5 games of Flacco. They have so many more games to get this right and really see what it can be. And I think David Njoku is the biggest beneficiary of all of it. I really do.
Dude, the first one he really let rip, David Njoku makes a diving catch. Like right out the gate. Like as soon as he makes that catch, I think I kind of went, okay, I'm listening. You know what I mean? Like, that was it his first throw in the game? Or it was one of his first.
I thought Moore caught the first one on the sidelines.
You're probably right. But when he ripped it to Njoku, I think it was at least on that first drive that he ripped it to Njoku. But when he rips it to Njoku, when he rips it to Njoku and he makes that kind of catch, which is an elite pass catcher catch. Like that's a catch not everybody, not just your regular run-of-the-mill average tight end's going to make. That's
a Randy Moss catch.
Yeah. There you go. He makes that catch. He dies. And then later he tops it with the touchdown, which is just hilarious. But he does that diving catch and I'm like, oh, so we're going to make plays. Okay. All right, sure. You've got, if I wasn't in, you've got me. I'm sitting up now. I'm putting my phone away. You know, I'm not like mock drafting all day just to try to get through it. Like, let's see what happens. And then it just became fun. And like a lot of times these shows have been therapy at times and just times that a lot of times just didn't want to do it. I couldn't wait to do the OBR post-game show on Sunday, which was like crazy. I haven't wanted to do any of those. I haven't done very many of them either. I haven't really wanted to do any of those this year. And then I couldn't wait the 2.5 hours it was from the time the game ended until that started. Like, and then for this, I'm like, I was about to call you guys at like 6 and just be like, hey, you guys got some time to just figure things out for the next 2 hours before we go live. Like,
right.
But that's where we are. So it like, let's fucking keep it going.
I'm going to propose something live on air.
Huh?
I'm going to propose something live on air.
Okay.
Let's get together and do a live game reaction.
I would love that.
Let's
Like
pick
watch?
a game that works out for all of us, and we're going to watch along live and broadcast it.
Well, I'll tell you this, Casey. I am going to Athens this weekend.
Oh, that is factual. Yeah,
That is
You
correct.
guys are going to be together for the game?
Yes,
yeah,
we are.
Yeah.
Damn it, I'll be in my garage. This is the one.
Okay.
I have house guests coming in. I won't be
Okay,
in my office.
maybe.
We'll figure
maybe
something out, though.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we
You
could
gotta
do a
wait till the
quarter. I
TV
don't
map comes out. The TV map releases on Wednesdays.
know. Okay.
Dude, I didn't have the Browns on Sunday. That's how far they had fallen. Like, I never don't have the Browns. They were not on my TV. I had to find an alternative method to watch them. And that does not happen. That's where they were. They showed the ass kicking that the Bengals got.
Oh man.
This should make you feel better, though. They had to switch over to the Browns game. They got so bad that the Browns came on at the end.
Really?
They didn't stick it out. They didn't get all the way through that ass kicking. If you were watching that in the Columbus region of WBNS, you didn't make it all the way before I was hearing from people.
Hey, even if it doesn't happen Sunday, Casey, I love your
We're going to do it. We'll figure it out. A game it's all going to work for us. Obviously, it's not going to work for you after the bye because you're going to be in New Orleans.
I will be there. We're bringing home that win.
Hey, look at this blood this blister I got. I think it's like it hurts.
Oh baby, man,
It's all full of blood.
what a difference a week makes. I just thank you to everybody for being here, man. Like I woke up today and I was like, it's Tuesday. Like I haven't felt like that since Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco.
You guys remember how I couldn't figure out why the camera on my laptop wouldn't work?
Vaguely.
It's been that way for like 2 months, and I couldn't figure it out. I was very frustrated. I tried everything. Turns out there's a switch on the side, and I had turned it off.
Oh no!
I couldn't figure that out for like 3 months.
Hey man,
I'm glad you got that worked out, Jacob. I believed in you the whole time that you'd find a remedy.
Don't forget.
Doubted. Unwavering faith, ultimate belief.
One team, one heartbeat. I can't remember the third one. Sorry. I can't. I'm not in the locker room. I just want to remind everyone that we are giving away a Browns jersey. Maybe it'll be a Jameis Winston jersey by the time we get there. Maybe it will be. But
I hope it is.
We need that 1,000 subscribers, baby, and we will give away one. So thank you to everybody for supporting us and being here. It's so much fun to see all these comments and happy ones. Casey, you brought that up. Jacob, you did too. What a difference. This has been a celebratory, a freeing, an inspiring episode of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Nick. He's Jacob. That's Casey. Go Browns.
Yeah.